Hello, this is Mr. Huber. In this video, I'm going to walk through an answer key for the Solving Trig Equations timed quiz. Again, these problems aren't necessarily going to be in the order you saw them, but they will be the problems you had at some point as they get reordered for each student. So these solving equations are to solve for values of theta between 0 and 360. That's the directions for every one of them. So the first one I'll do here is 2 sine theta plus the square root of 3 equals 0. So what we want to do here is get the sine theta by itself. So we can subtract the square root of 3 on both sides, and we'll have 2 sine theta equals negative square root of 3. And then we can divide both sides by 2. And so we'll have sine theta equals negative square root of 3 over 2. So now we need to figure out what angle measures have that ratio. So sine is the y value. This would be a reference angle of 60 degrees, and it's going to be in quadrants 3 and 4, because sine is negative in quadrants 3 and 4. So theta is going to equal 240 degrees and 300 degrees. Those would be your answers for theta for there. The second example to do is going to be, again, solving a trig equation. So we're solving for the angle measures here, and this one's going to be cosecant squared theta minus cotangent theta plus 1 equals 2. So this one will be a little trickier in that we're going to have to somehow get this to a single trig function, because we have cosecant and cotangent. Okay, and if you want, you could subtract the 1 on both sides first, or you could work on getting it a single trig function. That doesn't really matter. I'm going to replace the cosecant squared here with its Pythagorean identity, 1 plus cotangent squared theta. And then the rest of this equation stays the same. And now on the left side you have 1 plus 1. If you subtract those on both sides, it's going to cancel out. So these will all cancel out. Okay, 1 plus 1 is 2. Subtract the 2 on both sides, so you have cotangent squared theta minus cotangent theta equals 0. And now we can use factoring. So now we can factor out a cotangent theta from both of these terms. And then you can set each of these factors equal to 0. So you have cotangent theta equals 0, cotangent theta minus 1 equals 0. Right? When you have factors and you have an equation factored set equal to 0, you can set each factor equal to 0 individually. And so now I can take that first one, cotangent theta equals 0. So cotangent is x over y. So in order for that fraction to be equal to 0, we need an x value of 0. So that's at 90 degrees and 270 degrees. Okay, and then we can take the second equation that we have there, and we add 1 to both sides, and we're going to get cotangent theta equals 1. So in order for x over y to be equal to 1, we need the x and y to be equal to each other. So that's a 45 degree reference angle. And cotangent's positive in quadrant 1 and quadrant 3. So those are your theta value angles for the second equation: 45, 90, 225, and 270. Okay, if we move on here, do a third example, the third problem. Can't get that to move up all the way here. We'll try that again. So if we do it's as high as it's going to move. We'll start from here then. Okay, so number 3, all right, is going to be the equation 1 plus cotangent theta sine theta equals 0. So we have two trig functions here. How we simplify this will be, because cotangent, okay, is going to be written as cosine over sine. Cotangent is cosine over sine. That's its identity. And so those will both cancel out. When we multiply, we have 1 plus cosine theta equals 0, which gives us cosine theta equals negative 1. We subtract the 1 on both sides. Okay, so cosine is x over r So in order for that to be equal to -1, we need an x value of -1. That's at theta is 180 degrees. You want to be a little careful here, okay? Because cotangent, right, is x over y. If you plug 180 degrees for cotangent 180 degrees is undefined because you'll have a y value of 0. You'd have a 0 in your denominator. So it does not work to plug 180 back into the original equation. So this is not a solution. So there's actually no solution for this equation. No solution. Okay, then we can go to number 4 here. I had a little trouble moving that screen up, so we'll try and squeeze this in, or it should move up when I fill it in a little more here. All right, so for number 4, we have 3 cosecant squared theta plus 5 equals 17. Okay, so we can subtract the 5 on both sides and get 3 cosecant squared theta equals 12. And if we divide by 3 on both sides, we get cosecant squared theta equals 4. Okay, and then we'd have to square root both sides. So when we do that, we get cosecant theta equals plus or minus 2. Should we see plus or minus 2? For cosecant, it's best to look at it in terms of sine as the reciprocal plus or minus 1/2. Okay, cosecant is the reciprocal of sine, so the reciprocal of 2 is 1 over 2. And so this is where we have a y value of 1/2. That's at a reference angle of 30 degrees. And since it's plus or minus, we need to have 30-degree reference angle in all 4 of our quadrants. So those would be our angle measures for theta. 30, 150, 210, and 330. Okay? So let's screen here. That's how we can get more room to write. And we'll go to number 5. So this was the final trig equation there was to solve. There are 2 other problems we'll go to as well. So for this one, we had, tangent theta cotangent theta plus 2 cosine theta equals 0. So now tangent times cotangent will always equal 1 plus 2 cosine theta equals 0. We subtract the 1, 2 cosine theta equals -1, divide by 2 on both sides, -1/2. So if cosine theta equals -1/2, that would be at a reference angle of 60 degrees, and cosine is negative in quadrant 2 and quadrant 3. So 60-degree reference angle in quadrant 2 is 120 degrees, and 240 degrees in quadrant 3. So that's our theta is 120 and 240. All right, so those are the solving trig equations problems, and there were some others, a couple, where you had to find the 6, we'll say, is cotangent -225 degrees. This is find the exact value of the trig function. So -225, if we just wanted to draw a quick sketch, that's out here. Okay, this would be a 45-degree reference angle. 45-degree reference angle means my x and y are going to be square root of 2 over 2, both of them. In this case, a negative x and a positive y. So for cotangent, square root of 2 over 2, and square root of 2 over 2 is going to be 1. That x value is going to be negative in quadrant 2, where this is located. So it's going to be a -1 for the answer. So -1 would be your exact value for that. And one other problem here, number 7. Okay, so this problem gave us a trig ratio of secant. So secant theta is 13 over 5 in quadrant 4. And we need to find tangent theta as a simplified ratio. Okay, so we're going to use this secant, okay, 13 over 5, that's r over x, okay, r over x. So we need a y value because tangent is y over x, okay? So we need to find the y value for this, so we'd do 5 squared plus y squared equals 13 squared. You're going to come out with y equals 12 if you do that correctly. And in quadrant 4, right, in quadrant 4 over here, we have a negative y value, positive x, negative y. So tangent is negative 12 over x is 5. So negative 12 over 5 would be our ratio for tangent, given secant was 1305 in quadrant 4. So that walks you through the problems you had for that solving trig equations quiz, and a couple questions just about the 6 trig functions as well. You can go back and look through any of those. Make sure you understand them. If there's questions you still might have about any of it, you can follow up and ask me and let me know so I can help you clarify and understand the material that was covered there.